Finish the design.
He's like, okay. And she's gonna be like, yeah, what are you? Always. That's good, that will be. I was gonna tell you that he turned like either put that away or leave it here. Right, just go there. So you can put it in your.
Not tonight. Not 10 to 11.
Oh.
Otherwise,
Okay, so she's
like 11.
There's one that is right. Now that I mentioned that.
This is what I'm. Occasionally.
And she also does. Really? I'm working on it. And every time I get another bright idea, I add something to this club. I don't think word ready? I'm working on word. As it is 6 o'clock, we'll call this Hermosa Town Board regular meeting Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 to order at 6 o'clock. Roll call. Kramer's here. Ferguson? Here. Coots?
Here.
Harris?
Here.
Service?
Here.
I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. We're going to have a special presentation tonight. Thank you all for coming. Please stand and join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. For those of you that haven't been here before, we are now on candid camera, so please watch your facial expressions and your words, because the whole world can know about it. We do not yet have it online immediately. We are working towards that, trying to work all the bugs out. That will happen as soon as we get them all worked out. Right now, we are trying to just get the audio online so that anybody who cannot make it to the meeting can listen to the entire meeting online. So, just so you know, smile. On that note, we'll do the call for changes, review of the current agenda items. I know that we have one change, and that is planning and zoning, the subdivision plat application. That will not be discussed tonight. The contractors called and asked for it to be pulled at this time and that they would be adding it soon. So we'll take that off. And does anybody else have anything tonight?
Can we change 15 A, B, and C to review of the ordinances rather than the first reading?
15 A, B, and C. I believe that we can and should do that. I think that things have been happening at a pretty fast pace these days, and that we need to take a little bit of time on work sessions to discuss this. I know there's been conversation that possibly this board's been doing too many work sessions. There's a lot to be done. We have a lot of action going on right now, water, sewer, ordinances, and I do know that they do all need to be done, and it needs to be done as speedily as possible. But we also want to make sure that, as we have done sometimes in the past, things have gotten passed, ordinances have been passed in such a speedy fashion that within even the next week, we realized that there were some changes that should have been made. So I would agree with the fact that these should be put on discussion for the next work session. And Do I have any agreement here? Yes. Eric?
So if we're going to move toward more structured handling of ordinances, things like according to Robert's rules and so on, typically procedures for something like that, you do the reading, and then discussion occurs after the reading.
Yes.
So if you don't have it in, and under Robert's rules, you're actually supposed to make a motion that you're going to be looking at it when you're going to move it. So if we're gonna start moving towards following Robert's rules and South Dakota municipal law and everything, it should be make a motion for consideration or you make a motion and then you do the reading, and then the time after the reading is when you start going into it and editing it and revising it.
I'm not gonna argue that position, but then it's a matter of publicizing it. And if you don't have it done within a certain amount of time, then you've wasted your finances by publicizing it and not getting it done. So the point of discussing it in a work session gives us a little time to make sure that we're not wasting any of the town's and the citizens' funding. Joe?
I just like to commend this board because although you've had a lot of work sessions, you have accomplished so much in each of them. I mean, they don't drag on. You have discussed things and you have accomplished things. I'm very proud of you guys.
Thank you. This board is working together well. We hope to keep it that way and start and continue to keep on getting through things and getting them cleaned up. Mr. Halsworth.
Thank you, and I agree that yes, your first reading, second reading is what Robert's rules is, but if the board isn't comfortable in the positioning of it, and you've only did it in one work session, and it isn't time to move through your first reading, then you do not need to make your motions. You do need to go back to the drawing board, further discuss it within the board members before you move forward to do your changing or amending of an ordinance. You want to make sure you have plenty of discussion on that item before you make that final decision. And that's a good aspect where your work sessions have been awesome, and you've done a lot of work. You've accomplished a lot. But I do agree that there is always a good time to go back through and re-review stuff and make sure you're all comfortable before you make a decision to change your ordinance.
Thank you, Deb. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, so that kind of gets to is typically in the legislative body, a member or a group of members will put together something like an ordinance or a statute, put it in a package and submit it. So that during that review time, in between the first and second reading, everybody has a foundation, something to look at, something to go off of, something that's ready.
And you have done that.
Right, so that's where we move into the first reading, and then you don't have to have a second reading at least 5 days out. But you can extend that.
To what point?
For a second reading, there isn't one.
I believe that is incorrect. But
It's not like you have to immediately move in, but either way, I mean, you can do a first reading, and if it falls through, if it doesn't reach a consensus, you do another first reading. But if we're going to start moving toward a more structured legislative government, then everything gets confined, just like a motion. You make the motion, then you have discussion, then you vote. It's compartmentalized.
Jenna?
I completely understand where you're coming from and your reasoning on that. And I guess I'm not aware of the whole moving towards Robert's rules for everything, but I know you don't have to adopt the whole thing. In my opinion, it makes more sense. You know, Aaron did a lot of work. He went through and put everything together for us, from when Dan made notes on it, from when Jerry and Vicky made notes on it, and put it all together for us and kind of put his thoughts in there. So I think it's kind of like baking a cake, you know, now you bring it to the board in a work session, we look at it, we talk about it, we make our changes, mix it up, bake it, you have your first reading, and then you really are reviewing it to make sure there's no typos and it's exactly the way you want it. And if you do change something, then your second reading is as amended. Otherwise, it's your second reading, and I thought it was within 10 days. Well, it's long enough to have another meeting.
Correct, which is 2 weeks, so I think
So
it's.
maybe it's 20 between the two.
Thank you. Yeah, Joan?
I can't give you specific instances just off the top of my head, but I know that Robert's Rules of Orders is addressing a broad group of country, different organizations and whatnot. South Dakota state law addresses municipalities, and you go there first. And, you know, we, over the years, gotten our, steps on how to do things from the South Dakota Municipal League and also from South Dakota ordinance. But you cannot go specifically only for holding your meetings, but the rest of it, you can't go specifically by Robert's Rules of Orders because they don't always match the South Dakota ordinances.
Thank you. So, you had another thing?
Oh, I just forgot to mention, usually between the first and second reading, or even before your first reading, you want to also, have the attorney review them. We were at one point making sure he reviewed them all to make sure. Before we,
That was
yeah.
something that we did do, yes. So, we're still in the consent calendar here and making, or the call for changes on the agenda. I would like to, ask the board, make a motion to put this into the next work session so that we can discuss it. Aaron's paperwork that he has is all, here. I have picked up mine. He's got a packet for everybody. It would give us time to read that and be ready for the next work session. So I would still like to recommend that it is on the next work session, which will be April 7th, is it? 8th. 8th.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'm going to say between A, B, and C to the game.
Okay. Do I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Cal seconds that motion.
Are we also including removing item 8A?
Well, yeah, but that was already kind of agreed upon, yeah. Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Aye. Motion carried. So the agenda is approved minus 8A and moving 15A, B, and C to a work session. Thank you. Consent calendar, approval of March 18th and March 19th, the equalization meetings. Entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes as it's been. As is prior to the order.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Carol, you done? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Janet?
I need to abstain. I wasn't at that meeting.
Thank you. Aye, so motion carried, one abstention. Conflict of interest, please, everybody, remember that if it's a conflict, that you are not able to discuss it very much. Thank you. Town or FEMA updates. I would like to first start with the city office, and we have received and closed applications for the office staff. We received, was it 13? 13. We will be going simply through the 13 that we have gotten and try to choose who we will interview, tonight at our work session, or at our executive session. I am very pleased to have gotten 13. I can't tell you how long it's been since we had that many. Lucky 13, so, we're looking forward to moving forward for that. And as far as, the law enforcement, we do have that update under law enforcement. And at the office being closed, anybody that noticed, Terry was called for jury duty in Pennington County. So the office was closed for more than half the day today. She had to go in for her first time. She is up on for all of May. I will let her tell you what the judge told her about work, and then we'll go forward.
Going on for the month of April, and the judges said that he would not excuse anybody for work purposes.
And I think that's become a stricter policy for them because everybody was having a reason to get out of jury duty and they weren't having enough people to serve on jury. So they have gotten tougher on that. She was not selected for this week's trial, so she'll be here the rest of the week and probably have to go through the same thing next week would be my guess. So this could happen for the month of April, at any time where it could be a closed sign on the door due to jury duty. All right, do we have any FEMA updates? We already have that on the engineer.
No, I do have some.
Okay, Joan, thank you.
I mentioned to all of you before that, our generator grant was submitted on February 14th, and that we had received requests for information on that, a few weeks later. In those 5 days that we actually had work days to prepare those answers, Anthony and Bridget both worked tirelessly trying to, get all the information needed. However, we did not meet our submission date in 5 days. It was too much there, and just communication, everything. We just didn't get it done. So 7D on your agenda, we'll discuss this information that we have gathered can be used in another branch. It's just that the requirements are different. Not quite as favorable, but not bad. I mean, the town would have to pay 10%, which I'm sure Anthony can answer those questions, but it's actually probably less than the setup of one generator and pad and all the labor versus we are asking for 6. So it still offers a lot, even though it's not quite what we were looking for. Monday, we'll be having a meeting on the current grant, the BRIC grant. And so I know those of you that have always come will probably come and we'll get that one figured out. But just to let you know that it is moving along slowly because this is only our first step. And
what time is that meeting on Monday, Joan?
I don't have a time yet.
Okay.
So we will have one later this week. And I think that's just kind of a nutshell there. But I think they'll discuss the needed letters and things for the generator grant also on Monday.
Okay, all right, thank you, Joan. All right. Note in the minutes that Kent has arrived. Thank you. Kent, did you hear that?
I'm sorry.
I said you're over 15 minutes late, so you don't get paid for it.
Oh, charge for 15 minutes. Oh, I thought about you guys on the way down.
No, thanks.
So we had your attention.
Yes.
All right, that brings us to the Volunteer of the Year Award. I'd like to first thank everybody for putting their thoughts on paper and bringing that forward to the town of those that have given their time and love to the community. And so thank you for printing the letters and turning them in. We have presentations. One for Linda Hazelstrom. And I can read you her letter, the letter that was sent in her behalf. Linda has devoted so much time and effort to the HaHa organization. Prior to our opening, she would escort people on individual tours through the building, expounding on the amazing history of the original Hermosa schoolhouse and encouraging others to help us save the history of the Hermosa community. Since the opening, she has willingly helped to keep the museum open throughout the summer months. She stands ready to help and promote every event and activity that HaHa supports, including but not limited to manning the county fair booth, arranging the storytellers events, setting up the HaHa display at the local coffee house, handing out candy at Halloween, working the Christmas carnival. She has headed our collections committee for many years. Linda has written countless articles for submission to the Hermosa newsletter, and one of the largest projects she has undertaken is cataloging obituaries of the people of eastern Custer County. This will be a valuable resource for future generations. Linda has served on the board of directors and as the vice president for many years. To say that Linda is a core reason of the organization is viable and active today would not be an exaggeration. Linda has lived in many places throughout her life, but Hermosa, South Dakota is her love and her home. Thank you for considering Linda Hazelstrom as Hermosa's Volunteer of the Year. Thank you, Linda.
Take my consent.
If you're gonna take them,
Yeah.
You may. You want to say before or after?
I just want to show you what it is that I do for HaHa. My office, a quarter of my office is full of these binders. And this is the P binder, for example. And this has all of the obituaries that I have found under the name, that have the name of P in the Custer Chronicle this year. Well, not just this year, for many years.
Wow.
Down memory lane is one of the real enjoyable aspects of the Custer Chronicle, and I keep all of those so that history will be available to HaHa members. And then there's the sheriff's log, which is also a very important part of Hermosa history. And I don't know how many of you read the sheriff's log?
How can you not read?
If you're
It's
missing
wonderful.
the sheriff's log, you're missing one of the really enjoyable parts of that, because the man has a sense of humor, and a Lower French Creek resident called to complain about a helicopter that may or may not have been flying too low in the area. The resident also threatened to arrest the pilot if he flew by again. It was not clear how he planned to accomplish this task. So that's one of the things that I do, and enjoy it, obviously.
And we thank you for it. The whole community thanks you for it, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, they will take a pretty picture.
Well, they're not watching me.
Yeah, me too. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Finding the obituaries is really cool.
And this year we actually had 4 nominations, and we decided to choose 2. And our main reason for choosing who we did choose was because they have been in the community and doing volunteer work for a long time. And the other goes to Leo and Deb Van Sandby. We would like to thank them, and I will read the letter that was submitted for them. Deb and Leo's community involvement began when they moved to Hermosa area in the 1970s. Even though they yet had no children of their own, they attended events at the Hermosa School to get acquainted with the town and meet their neighbors. That sense of community has grown steadily since then. Over the years, Leo has committed his time and talents to numerous local entities and projects. These include, but are not limited to, Custer County School Board, Custer County Library Board, Hermosa Senior Center, Hermosa Connects, Hermosa Area Growth and Development Group, Hermosa Hucksters, Black Hills Electric Co-op Director Nomination Committee, Western Junior Livestock Show Scholarship Committee, and St. Michael's Catholic Church. He was instrumental in the fundraising and planning and completion of the new St. Michael's Church, as well as the recent expansion project for the additional classroom. Deb has been Leo's constant partner in these ventures and organizations. She is also a very active member of St. Michael's Church and the Hermosa Senior Center. Working in many areas from food prep to cashier, Deb is the Hermosa area representative for the Vigilant Blood Donor Organization. Every 8 weeks, she makes countless phone calls to enlist donors. She keeps the records on the donation day and arranges the space at the American Legion building and serves as host to those who come to donate. Deb is a valued member of the Hermosa School Backpack Team. Each week during the school year, she participates in packing and delivering the delivery of food items to the school. If there is a fundraising event of any kind in Hermosa, Deb and Leo are involved. If they are not directly participating, they are contributing items for sale. Such items might include food from pies to soup to sausage, handcrafted and or fabric treasures, and even wine from their own vineyard. Leo and Deb have always played an active part in local youth activities, whether they were school or community-based, serving as coaches, referees, record keepers, and cheerleaders. Leo and Deb serve as excellent examples of volunteerism and community connection. They are very deserving of this recognition. Thank you. 1970s, we're talking 50 years.
Yeah, we were young kids then. I didn't want to say we weren't married yet. Somebody might have looked it up.
Yeah.
In case you're wondering, you ought to see each other.
Yeah, I was just thinking that's way too close.
That's what happens when you take what's it called, a header down the stairs at the civic center.
Oh, well, you're lucky that's all that's wrong.
Well, that isn't all that's wrong.
It's just what shows, huh?
That's
I guess you do have a little
Well, broken.
alley.
But it's fine. I said I was gonna let Deb talk. I want to thank you. My dad told me years ago that you gotta give more back than you receive. And I think that we've tried to. As you heard, we've been here almost 50 years now. We started out on Highway 36 and now we're down by the lagoon. In case anybody wonders where we live. And it's been great being. And I guess looking back, I don't know that we did that much more than anybody else, but because we had so much fun doing it. Deb did a lot more than I did. She had to stay home and take care of the kids in addition to doing volunteer.
And you.
So we thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, both of you.
No,
Okay.
Go ahead, Jake.
Oh, yeah, yes, he can't speak on this right yet.
Well,
Done? Yeah.
thank you guys so much. that is one of the fun things that this board gets to do once a year, and we enjoy it, and we are so thankful for our citizens, our community, for helping us make that decision and putting their time for us. So thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Age before beauty.
Alright, that brings us to the engineer, Mr. Anthony. Thank you for coming tonight.
Sure, so first discussion is, tip 3, which would be the carriage shells. I don't know if it's being called terrace hills now, but, the carriage hills, they're a subdivision. They wanted to know if the town would be willing to participate in the tip, preparation for that area. Obviously, the district, our boundaries have to be completely established by the town planner. But it would be the area north of Main Street and east of the highway kind of thing. They pulled their plat, but, that could be only because there's some cost estimates there that had a lot of things that were maybe not, like some extra things in there. They're probably looking at that again. But I think they're in that position now where they want to kind of see where the tip would come in from a financial standpoint versus, tax value versus their infrastructure cost. So they've got that plat ready to go. We didn't really see anything objectionable with it. The only one thing that I would urge is them to consider doing covenants. Because they're brand new, the brand new subdivision. A lot of the homes are gonna be spec built or, I think they're even manufactured models. And so that's their opportunity now to do such a thing. And that kind of goes across the board with all these big newer subdivisions, is they got that opportunity. So I think doing the tip, you'd wanna have a discussion with them on, the town would like to see A, B, C, and D done. This tip is pretty straightforward because everything's in town, water and sewer from the town. And so, it would be just them. We would prepare that for them. And then, he'll give time that it would take, basically based on the precedent on tip 2. Which is pretty affordable. What we've been hearing from other developers. So, we would just, the town would act as a pass-through for that. They would have to pay for the cost of that. And then you guys would authorize us to go ahead and put it together for them. Because the town has to participate in many of these anyways. So we give them the best value.
So you are asking for a motion for $1,000 for 80 hours for the planner's rate to put together the tip 3.
So I think the town can offer that to Eisman. They're not gonna close until May anyway, so I doubt that they'll agree to something until they're closed on the purchase of the property. But you guys could vote to offer that to them. And that the town, it wouldn't cost the town anything, but the town would be a pass-through for that fund, for those funds. So Eisman would pay that amount, which the town could invoice, and then Fenish would invoice the town, and we would do that on their behalf.
Using their funds, correct?
Just
Eventually.
12,000, yeah, it would get reimbursed anyways from the tip. It can be, they can opt for it.
Is this our first cost for the tip or 3?
Yeah, and it's the first, I guess, expense is putting it together, yeah. And that creates the project plan, the phasing, the developer agreement, and all the things that they've got to get their own financing, be it a line of credit or a bond or whatever that is, bank loan. And But, when it's a TIF, the town acts like they dole out the money, so.
Curious, wait, that was our first. one. Okay,
Eric.
thank
So some differences, just to paint a picture between this and TIF two.
Mhm.
So as far as these sort of things, when it came to TIF two, we had that money set aside for
Gotcha.
these sort of things, right?
Yep.
And then another big difference with TIF two versus TIF three is TIF two went ahead and included some commercial component.
Exactly. So, tip two is an economic development type tip. So it needed some commercial because of the value of the homes that they're proposing. The tip three is more in town. It's more affordable housing type thing, workforce housing, which is why I think covenants are even more important, because it will keep that area kind of within its own architectural committee, et cetera. And then that doesn't need to have commercial because of the way it's structured as workforce housing. So the houses will be below that threshold. I think it's 350, which is still quite a lot of money, but that qualifies them.
So just to consider, so how we would essentially, we pay you, they pay us, really, what we're getting at, right?
Yeah, I would probably collect the money from them first, just so you
That's
get the money in, and then, yeah, we'll bill and you'll pay us out by our monthly billings.
That's kind of what I'm getting at, because we talk about TIF like there's eventually money coming. But that eventually could be very far away, so yeah, I think if that's what you're looking for, a motion essentially to
Yeah, with no.
basically invoice them.
That you would extend that offer to them.
Alright, so we give them, yeah, alright, I get it, so we're essentially invoicing that if they give us $12,000, we will
Yeah.
move forward on the TIF.
Yeah, and you could say payment terms to be determined, et cetera.
Any other questions? Comments? Motion?
I'll make a motion to, offer an agreement with, for TIF three, amount of $12,000.
I was thinking,
Donna, made motion and seconded. Any questions? Any comments from anybody?
This agreement then with Eisman Homes.
Yeah, the owner of Carriage Hills.
And you said it's gonna be terrace fields?
And that's what they're calling it in the latest plat, application, so. Right there?
And what's in that?
Cheers.
Terrace.
No tariffs in the town or.
Yes.
Within that offer agreement, would that be where we would also suggest that they create covenants to add to
Yeah,
the plat before it's?
I would urge that. Because they're gonna always, it's affordable housing, they're gonna be looking at how they can keep this affordable, so. We'd like it affordable, but still,
We've had a subdivision that has covenants and they didn't get filed, so,
yeah, they need to do that.
yeah, so. We'll have to remind them.
Yes,
to file
make
it.
sure of that.
Mhm.
Leo, I see your hand up.
Just a quick comment. Because you're still developing this tip, one of the things that came out of this child care study that Haggy put together was to create an incentive program for home-based child care. And according to the consultant, that is an allowable thing that can go into a tip, is developing childcare services within the development. And so I would encourage you to discuss that with Heisman. And now you know everything I know about that, but I'm sure the consultant would be more than willing to talk to Heisman about how that could be factored in there, because that is something, particularly if this is going to be workforce housing,
Mhm.
guess what? That's where you need childcare.
Yeah, and maybe that's something that could be crafted in the covenants, that that type of home-based business is allowed, and, you know, obviously,
And actually,
cars in front of the house, or, you know, things like that.
Thank you, Leo. Ken?
That's a great point, because, home-based childcare, like a daycare center, is a business. And it only takes one business under state statute to qualify as an economic development TIF.
Mhm.
And when you're an economic development TIF, you get a much larger piece of the pie. So, matter of fact, you get all increased in taxes collected. And if you don't get that, you pretty much set yourself up for failure. I would consider changing, if they're not, and you can, I thought you said one of the first one was, the second one was not. The economic.
Well, it can be both. The first one, that was what they fell under.
Yeah.
Because of the commercial property, but then, this one, just enough, affordable housing is just enough to be considered in the tax increment, but, you can have both. You had that on tip one.
Yes, and affordable housing is a, certainly an identified, typical use,
Yeah,
but, again, it really goes back to just, create at least one business theoretically qualified.
yeah.
Dan had his hand up first. Did you?
Thank you, and I appreciate Shannon bringing that up about our previous tip. And with these gentlemen, they have some very solid investors. It is going to move forward very strongly. They're not going to phase it. They want to do it all at one time. All the infrastructure and everything will go in right away, what they're doing. I did, and bring it up that we felt that on the covenants when they were here, because I have a passion very deeply for our community. And felt we don't want, cars parked in the right of ways, cars parked on walks, cars being worked on, that we want to keep a good, close, clean statue of everything that we have within that neighborhood. They're gonna bring in some very beautiful homes, and there'll be a lot of modular, double wides. That's what Iceland's all about. But they structure very nice developments, and so it's very exciting to see their partnership and what they're doing into this development. And the sponsorship will be a well worth reward to the community. And the commercial will be even a better well worth to the community to be able to involve that and have that all come together in one big structure.
Thank you. Yeah.
So in offering this sponsorship and basically invoicing the 12,000, would it be best to then mention the covenant says, and that they can or should allow the incentives for the home-based businesses?
If they agree to, I mean, if you extend that offer, typically, and they agree to it, that brings us to the negotiating table with them.
And then we can
And then
discuss
we can
that.
talk about the details. In the tip, it would be written into the developer agreement.
Okay.
You have that opportunity. And other things that you might think of in between now and then.
Any, Aaron, did you have one? I see your hand up.
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Hi.
Motion carried. Thank you. B.
Madisonville. So we really need to kind of move forward with that from this is basically DNR's comments. I told them that we had a work session, we talked about it, we had our geologist here, Pete Wallman, and his recommendations were in a 2-page summary. And basically, he looked at the entire 650 acres of Preston property and looked at the west side of that to see if we go west towards Shore and Murphy Road, will we get any big benefit? And really, we're still within that 300 feet that we need to get into the Madison aquifer. And so there wouldn't be any real cost savings to drill there because they'd still be within that, window that they need to meet a performance bond on. So that was the one thing. The other thing was, I let DNR know that, and they actually had Black Hills Local Council of Governments start the environmental process. So that way that can go. And, just after the first couple of days of doing that, they identified that there's a long-eared bat habitat that goes in our area here. I don't know if anybody's ever seen one. I guess the tricolor bats also along with that. And so they started asking me all kinds of questions like, will the drill rig make a lot of noise and scare the bats away? Are they working all night and the light will shine and scare them? So like, there's like one tree within 1,000 feet of that. So I had to say yes, because there's one tree. One. So maybe there's a bat and I don't know. So that's where we're at. We need to continue that because that's what DNR wants to see. It wants to see us pass through that environmental phase so they can issue what's called a FONSI, a finding of no significant impact. The bat thing with the National Wildlife and WS, National Wildlife Service, it said may affect. So it's kind of a very light categorization. They want a letter from me saying the reasons I answered the way I did. And so I asked the driller, for example, on noise, I said, you have mufflers on all your stuff that will, and he does, and it's all certified and meets certain decibel requirements. And so I guess they've all gone through this before. But when you write yes to blasting and drilling, and that's one question, are you blasting and drilling? I have to say yes. It's just like you're blasting. So that's where we're at. So that process, we'd like to see keep going because that makes the director of DANR's program take us seriously. And everybody else in DANR said, hey, we want our boss to take that loan seriously and not keep debating about calling the money back. So we don't want that at 1.65%.
So that's the 800 there, that's pointing to the location you want, and this is right there by the tent, by where the tank is going. So
Right on the property we own.
short throw, and we were looking at like 80 something degrees was the last guesstimate.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
We got one of the few Madisons when that's drilled. The next one's quite a ways away. I think Hermosa, water users.
we need a motion, right?
Yes.
Motion, I'll make a motion to approve the Madison well location. As presented by Bench.
Do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Al seconds that motion. Any further discussion? Questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion's carried. Thank you.
So, the next thing is we got a kind of request, informal request to do a, kind of an update or public engagement or an update to the lagoon expansion and the treatment plant. So I wrote down that list and I thought I'd just share it with you. Six questions I got was, what steps are you taking for odor control, since that directly affects all of us? So obviously, there's still facultative lagoons, but we're enlarging them. So when we enlarge the lagoons, that affects everybody that lives around there, the loading per square foot goes down. And so that allows the biological process to happen more efficiently. And on top of that, I still keep getting kind of weird excuses for why we don't have a permit yet, but there's nothing that's on us. It's all just kind of people are sick or somebody's off for 2 weeks or that type of thing. And it's supposed to be that we get within this week, we'll get the ability to put a note, the 30-day public comment. And upon the 30-day public comment, I was told that it's a matter of days now for them to issue us our permit. So that's the latest, that they'll give us that this week, within a week, and that was Monday. And then 30 days from that, we should be able to do that. When we do that, then the process of the lagoons, which are large, going to be larger, will then go through the treatment plant as well. So the treatment plant will allow us to directly discharge into the Battle Creek. And so all those things prevent the lagoons from going septic, causes all the odors. So, I'm hoping, I wish I could have it the other way around, where they were evaporative ponds. If I got hired a year earlier, they would be, but we were stuck with that, we were in a consent agreement with fines, so we had to continue down this road, but, it gets us really far along, it's one step better. We could run our pond doctors as well, and that would even knock the odor down even more, so. So we're doing everything we can, to have as little odor as possible. So explaining the diagram that's being built exactly, and I can prepare something for a future meeting if you'd like me to. Just, I could do an aerial, but what I will say is that as of today, the large 5 million gallon detention basin is in use. We've been able to pump, it's pumping right now. It'll probably take us 3-4 days to pump down all of Lagoon B. Lagoon B is our large lagoon. And that's getting drained completely to be enlarged into 2 cells. So, so yeah, and we'll have probably 1.5 million gallons of into that 5 million gallons from what we've been holding all winter. We just barely made it without pumping and hauling. We actually pumped and hauled the Keystone one day, and then they told us we're all messed up. We can't take any. And that was a good thing because it actually saved a ton of money. So. The contractor out there worked like 10 and 12-hour days, straight to get it ready for us. So, so that's kind of what's being built. That's what's been built so far. The treatment plant, they're hooking up to all the electrical. So then the next step is that it'll be running. So they may be finishing off things. And I think one thing that's slowing them down is they need dirt. But we've run into an issue where when we went on a sequence like that to build the big detention basin, we had just enough dirt because all the rest of the dirt's trapped under Lagoon B. Until we get it drained down the next 3 days, we can't get any of that dirt out of there to finish. So of course, the treatment plant got just as much as he could sacrifice, which was just enough to get him going to put electrical and put the siding and, you know, kind of get the building ready. But to pour the slab, the floor slab, we need more dirt. So he's gonna get it all running, and then we're gonna get the biofilm going, which takes a couple weeks. So that'll happen now. It's already got a roof on it and sides on it, so and then he can start doing as much as possible and then get our dirt in there enough to build the slab. When that happens, the treatment plant gets insulated and electrical, lighting, heating, all that stuff yours, and it's running. So I'm hoping that that line's even before. So we can actually treat, but we won't discharge. We'll treat and send it back into Lagoon C. And then we'll be taking samples, and when they say we can let it out into the Battle Creek, we'll be ready to do that. So, so that's where we're at there. Questions about who will maintain it and what exactly does it take to maintain it. A part of my contract is to write the standard operating procedure for the treatment plant. So that will involve as well how to run the lagoons. When we got the permit, we got a variance from the South Dakota design manual because they've never seen a 4-cell lagoon before. And so, although I've done 7 or 8 of them in my career, that was the first one here. And so they said, well, we want a standard operating procedure for how the valves open and close. And so that'll be already written related to the lagoons. And then the treatment plant gets its own SOP for that. So that's how it'll be maintained by licensed operators. Cost, we're not over budget. I do have on my agenda change order request, but it's within the original scope, and we were well under budget when we went through those 2 bid processes. So we'll still be within our budget from the loan, grant, and municipal bonds we sold for the treatment plant, which was 1.6, 1.7. So, expectations or present future population of the system being installed currently. So I modeled that treatment system. We can discharge 60,000 gallons a day, all day long, 24/7, 365. So that equates to the population of It's like 1,000 people, divided by 75, so 60, 75. So that's about enough to double our over double our current population.
Which if you go by average household size and you include both the new subdivisions, still that's less than that 1,000.
Yeah, and that's just the treatment plant. So that means if you had 60,000 gallons coming in from the town, we could go right out with it for the treatment plant. That doesn't account for evaporation in the ponds, which we lose a lot at evaporation. There's some little bit of seepage as well, but not as much anymore because everything's in line with bentonite. Is the last question. So does the bentonite take the place of a liner? And the answer is yes. That is a liner. It's a synthetic soil. So what they did is that could be part of the reason. That's part of the reason they had a lack of dirt, because we kept saying we still have like 20% more than we need. Well, they compacted that stuff because they did not want to fail their test. So they compacted that stuff to 95% instead of 90 because they didn't want to lose out on that. Well, so the soil already is already clay, and so the clay material is 10 inches thick, and then you have an inch of bentonite, and they got the stuff from Wyoming, which had like a really high swell. It swells, it's a 29 swell, so it swells several times its size. And then you have 2 inches of dirt on top of that to keep that from getting punctured or whatever, so that when the water comes in, it all swells into that soil layer. So that is your seepage. We did a falling head permeability test in our laboratory in Lincoln, Nebraska. I took 2 shelving tubes. I pushed a tube through 12 inches, and I took those 2 samples to Nebraska with me. And they tested it for over a week, and the results we're supposed to get a 1/16 of an inch per day, and they were getting 10 times less than that. So instead of 0.0625, they're getting 0.006265 or whatever. So it's way beyond the seepage rate minimum requirement. And that's the thing about that versus the plastic liner. Because plastic liner, you get a hole in it, you're done. It's going to go all the way down. So this, at least you would have to really do something to damage the liner. So that's.
Excuse me, Bob, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Rodents.
Yeah.
Any burrowing animals. We don't have a big problem here, but we do have, molds and that. They're gonna be monitored, I would assume.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the normal maintenance around the lagoon area. I guess what the prairie dogs and stuff would be what we have here. It's the liners is the whole bottom of the lagoon plus the sides all the way around, and then it's got on top of that there's a fabric, geotextile fabric, black fabric, and then on top of that there's riprap that's about that big around. So the whole from the toe to the high water is all riprap all the way around. And so, that's all those things are done to prevent animals from wanting to burrow into it, because they'll hit that riprap, they try to get through the fabric, and then it's enough to deter them.
Isn't it easily repairable with the bentonite in
Yeah, it's easy to repair.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep, that's another benefit. And this detention basin, which is the big one, can be drained all the way down. There's no requirement for us to keep any minimum water level in it, because it's only holding water.
It is huge. I mean, it is so big. When you go down there and look at it, it's amazing. And when you see it, you can kind of see where it would over double our population. It will handle it. It's
It's 14 feet deep.
very.
How many diving boards are there?
We haven't purchased those yet, we're working on that. It would be nice, wouldn't it?
Some jet skis.
Yeah. Go ahead, go.
I would just like to suggest that we don't put any diving boards in there. And not to ruin Bob's fun, but just to protect the liner.
Okay. Get my head stuck in the mud. It's been there before.
Okay, thank you. All right, Anthony.
Yep, so that's all I had for those, was the question.
Okay.
So the next discussion is FEMA. Our former governor is the head of FEMA now. And, so she, announced on Monday, it was Monday, that, she wants to dissolve FEMA by October. And, so the idea is that things are gonna be passed back to the states to do emergency management. And we have emergency management coordinators at the state level too. Actually, the one that gave us our letter to get out of our environmental clearance on our lagoon, that was the FEMA. That's our coordinator, environmental coordinator. So I think that the next 12 months, because I've been seeing this as well in the EPA, because I applied for $40 million in EPA grants and it's all hung up. I've got some Department of Energy grants, not that much money, but still important ones for projects here in South Dakota. And they're still accepting them. They're still accepting applications just like in FEMA. But we don't know if there's anybody home on the other side because they don't really answer. Like Bridget answers, but she works for Headwaters Economics, not FEMA. So I haven't had yet, and I don't know if you have seen any emails lately from any of the people, like
Katie said that, as soon as they were allowed, she would respond to my email. So they're not allowed right now to even acknowledge that they can't acknowledge us.
Yeah, and the EPA, they should have fired the press release secretary last, but they didn't. So you can't even get anything out of the different, or different groups or whatever. So what I would say about that is there's awards that have been awarded, such as our brick that you're going to meet on Monday about. That's an awarded project. It should have an appropriation associated with it. And so the sooner you can get that out and get that in contract and get that so the money's flowing, the better. Because EPA had environmental justice grants, so they went against the administration's new executive orders. And so even Citibank's money was frozen. It was issuing money out for existing awards. And then it was a big amount of money, so they sued Citibank and the EPA, the recipients, because they had hired people and everything. And so that's why I'm saying, I think this one that we got, the brick one, it's a scoping grant, could be the last thing you get out of FEMA while they're still around. And in 12 months, everything could be restructured, that there's new grant opportunities, but they're totally different, what they're looking for. But we have a scoping grant, so we'll have done a bunch of engineering on what we need to do to fix our problems, and now we can go out for those construction grants. So it'll be completely redesigned and tailored. So that's all I wanted to say on that. That's what we're seeing. And I have grant writers on staff in Chicago, so that's all they do all day. So I've gotten a couple updates from them on what I should recommend to my town. And they said, get it locked in as soon as possible and then hang on for 12 months.
Okay. All right.
Next is the contractor out on the lagoons, Baroque Advantage. He's at about 50%, and I would say he's probably 50% done with his work. I mean, surface area wise, he's 50% done, and the speed at which he did he was required to start today, according to his contract. This was his day to start, so he's already at 50%.
50%.
So,
That's a good thing.
yeah, so his pay application comes with our bid tabulation. So you can see in there, and I've reviewed it, the percentages of each item So you can see the tally, you know, he's 100% done with 12-inch PVC pipe, and 100% done with the soil erosion and mobilization 100%, stakeout 50%, materials testing 50, 30 rubbing 50 or 100%. He did the pump station, so that's done. So yeah, I think that is a reasonable place to be at. And so that's why I recommended the payout.
So then I need a motion
I make a motion
to
to
approve.
pay.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I have any discussion, any questions from the board or citizens? All those in favor?
Right.
Motion carried. Thank you.
And I forgot to mention that also in that payout, we deleted all the things out of this contract that the town paid for directly, like up to now. So that's all in the tally as well. Last is so second to last, change order. So when we had our original design, when I first got hired, there was this concrete trough that leads down to the Battle Creek, which we cleaned out, the DPW cleaned out, and we actually ran it down there to use it in irrigation. And so both Mark and Greg Newbar went me out at the lagoons yesterday, and we talked about that trough because it was the understanding that they were giving us a construction easement all the way around our property, and one of the conditions was that trough would come out. And obviously, we were worried at the time when we went out to bid before Christmas that we would be over our budget, right? And so we decided to remove that trough from the original bid. But it was still in the original scope. So the state has said that they would allow us to add that bid item back in to our loan. And so because the next bidder was like, what, $1 million?
Yeah.
One or something. And he was 830, what was it? 837? 837. So the state said that, we have some room there, to have that removed. My cost estimate, my engineer's estimate was like 100-some thousand. I remember correctly. I remember the exact amount, but it was in the original estimate there. I asked the contractor, to give us an estimate, and he's prepared a change order, request. I call it change order 5, which is the 7F in your packet, because there was 4 things that we purchased, 4 suppliers we purchased directly. And those are deducts from the contract, so those are considered change orders as well. So this is the first one that would be a potential increase, and it would be to remove and discard 750 feet of trough drain and install 750 feet of 8-inch PVC pipe underground with 3 manholes, so 1 on each end and 1 in the middle. Materials, labor, and he'll dispose all the disposal fees. And so that amount is, his estimate is 125,100. So it's just a little more than I had estimated, maybe because of disposal of the concrete. So the state said that we can add that if we so choose as a new bid item. Obviously, if you approve this, then it would go to them for their final approvals, being that it's got to meet all the, it's a low bidder, so it just has to be reviewed and approved by them if you approve it. But it seemed to be an important point in discussions with the new bars that be honored, that original agreement.
Okay.
Did we get an itemized on this?
I know he prepared an estimate. I don't see it in the packet. But I can ask him to provide that.
That seems like a lot of money, I'm telling you. For destruction, you know?
Well, he's putting pipe back in.
I get that. Still destruction first, and one of the big things is the disposal of the concrete.
Mhm.
But is there not anywhere in the area that somebody wants some? I mean, you know, to fill in a ravine, or have we checked into any of that? I mean, it just seems horrible to me, that price.
Yeah, and one of the things that, we discussed is, we have to put some riprap down or some spillway down at the Battle Creek. There's about 30 feet that needs to go from where we discharge to the edge of the creek. And we have some broken concrete sitting at the lagoon. But it would be a situation where maybe some of that trough would be more well suited there,
Right.
being that it's a trough. And then in exchange, there's some of that that could be hauled out. If we wanted. But in terms of itemization, I can have him itemize what disposal is, if we want to see about that being separate. And then, you know, cost of pipe, cost of manholes, dirt. Obviously, he's responsible for.
I would say we would need a itemized to vote on that,
Mhm.
in my opinion.
We need a motion to.
To get it, I don't think we need the motion, just to make sure we have one,
Okay.
because the motion won't be carried until we have one, so. Okay,
I don't know
agreed?
if it was in the,
I agree.
was there anything else in this?
I looked at the email, I didn't
No?
look at anything.
Okay. Dan?
Have you thought about anybody else bidding that portion of it, or just in-house? I get it, the contractor is the better guy, and
The only one we could choose because of the money.
would it help him, as what Linda said, if you had the concrete, or maybe the town could save some money?
I mean, maybe, I mean, he's got his own trucks and everything.
Where is he thinking of disposing it?
He's got a yard in Box Elder.
In Box Elder. Okay, so if we had somewhere closer, that might save us a little money.
Yeah, no,
How big a pipe was he putting in then for your discharge?
8-inch. Yeah, that was in.
Yeah.
Did you say we could not choose a different contractor to remove the trough?
You could choose, but we'd be paying out of pocket. It wouldn't get rolled into the CWS draft. No.
Yeah, and not, do you remember what the interest rate on that one was?
It was low.
How's the?
That's another one that was like 1.6.
1.2. So that, in my eyes, that kind of takes that out of it, you know? And the good thing about that is, he's done a good job so far. He's been, ahead of schedule, pleasant to work with, so we can be thankful for that. Wow.
I mean, there's a lot of time and effort and paperwork involved in re-advertising for that contract also.
Yes.
And then you have the time delay for getting bids and selecting and all that. So if you go with the guy that's on the ground, he's got his equipment here. He knows what needs to be done. He understands being able to use some of the trough at the very end of it.
Exactly. That does make a difference.
And just set up and tear down from a new contractor coming in, he then has to coordinate with the existing contractor to make sure that there's no conflicts.
Would there be any extra, if I understood that right, extra dirt that you're digging out of South E for the lagoon that would work for what he needs?
Well, and that's in there. I mean, all the calculations say that we'll have, you know, almost twice as much as we need in terms of dirt. But, you know, so far it's been tight on how much dirt we have. So, He'll be getting dirt from the north end of the trough where it's up out of the ground like this. But then as you go south, it goes underground. So I think it's almost a wash in terms of the dirt that he'll have there. And you're moving the trough, so there's a volume there. But that would be on him. That's why I think the estimate has some risk on his part to find the dirt.
So, do I have a motion here? Yeah, did I not write? Oh, I did. Okay.
Yeah. Now we're on.
That we want ours in my statement, but.
Yeah, Eric.
Just thinking about like whether or not it's even worth them to see if there's another option for disposing of this concrete. I mean, maybe we'll get the itemized and it'll be like, obviously not enough of a difference for us to bother.
I think that, Chuck knows most of the neighbors around here and Leo's here and.
I actually, have discussed the whole situation at Rob's home. I do have equipment on site and do have a disposal site. And so within the chain bed, Alan and I talked about it. I don't know, it's like Anthony said, you know, you pay for it through the loan or you pay for it out of pocket and try to get it back in some kind of form. So it does seem like it's a government amount, but price is very expensive, and so is manhole. And there would probably be some dirt left over. I have done some rip crap at the end of it in the creek already. It needs more. If it's broke up so it's suitable for reuse, then have some value. Not very thick, about 4 inches equal to what we pulled out on the sidewalk. The trick is to break it up into 10, 12-inch size.
Manageable size.
Yes, manageable size. You could physically pick it up if you needed to. So that's where it's at. I mean, he's correct in everything he said. I could entertain a bid. Like I said, I've been on site working with the whole project from start to finish and working with the treatment plant, and also we're heavily involved in transferring the water at this point and have been. We're up against it, transferring the water out of E into the detention pond, trying to get it in there as fast as we can without erosion. So we've been putting splash pads in trying to help control that.
Good.
And if we upsize the amount of water we're discharging, then, you know, we have to be careful we don't, well, that's what's there. So it's time consuming to get, we're pumping daily water from A into B, and we're pumping C into B, and we're pumping B into the new retention pond. So plus we have to deal with 45 to 50,000 gallons of daily use, incoming flow. So it's been kind of a project, keeping everything, and when you pump runs out of gas at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and you're loose, you've lost the whole ball game because you got 40,000 coming in. And we're running as big pumps as we think we can without doing any damage. So,
Back to the, item at hand is the, the bidding on that, and I think we have it pretty much down that it's, needs to stay within the set that's already set. Yes.
Is it? Is that something you can check with the state that about having been like a subcontractor rather than the main contractor within the project, having worked on it, would they allow a bid from him?
But no, I mean, through the contractor, yeah, I mean, if the subcontractor, is working for the general contractor that was awarded the contract, you know, whatever he's done through that contract, that's allowed, because, but they don't really, they scrutinize that through like Davis Bacon, so there's a
Okay.
prevailing wages. So the only thing they look at with suppliers and subcontractors is that they're meeting all their requirements of the prevailing wage, Davis Bacon. Beyond that,
Really no way.
beyond that, it
It
goes through the contractor. Yeah.
So basically what everybody's saying here, Chuck, is that, if you wanna talk to the contractor himself, and if he wants help and he wants to pay you, out of his pocket and his funds that he's getting from the grant and the money that we are paying him, then you can do that. But as far as town, accepting your bid to do that, that will not happen. Okay? And
Yeah, and, so, I mean, this is change order request 5. As it stands now, I always knew there would be one that would come from the contractor because we asked them to go out of sequence. I kind of I was talking about that all along. Our surveyors, we're trying to, because we are not letting him do, anything that we're gonna be right now, because it's full of water for the next several days. So while we're getting that water jockeyed over to the new detention basin and it dries out, I mean, he's probably a week where you can't touch any of that. And so I'm trying to keep him doing a workaround and keep him busy. So, like I approved submittal, we can't buy any more materials from him. So I approved all the submittals for ECP to give him the manholes he needs, which they should have Thursday. To do the connections of the different existing lagoons. Now, as of today, we have the surveyor doing takeout and survey of that area. And of course, you know, the manhole coming in from the town is in pretty rough shape. So as he's trying to see how he's gonna connect into that, you know, he's not sure it's gonna stay together. And so we could have a manhole via change order, replacement of a manhole, with what's basically become a splitter manhole. Because the way it was put together, we have, because there's 3 primary cells now, the manhole splits the flow from the town into 3. And one goes straight into the existing primary lagoon, one goes into the new primary lagoon, and the other one goes into what was our secondary lagoon, which is our 3rd primary. So that splitter manhole is probably going to be interchangeable, because it's not really recoverable. I didn't want to touch anything there because I know that we have issues going all the way up Fairground Place, and I want to get away from the lagoons, right? But that manhole, they're kind of saying that it would almost be more difficult to try to do anything with it than it would be to replace it. So I can see right now that being a potential change order request, which shouldn't be too big a deal. And then sequence, that I kind of, you know, obviously he hasn't asked for that in advance. So he's at our, in some sense, he's at our mercy. Because until we approve something, he's sort of gone off on his own, right? But at the same time, he's done all that for us, so I know that we're gonna be fair. So that all comes into play when he prepares this change order, because obviously it's all one contract. So I think it's good that you are asking for the breakdown, but just in 2 weeks, it's gonna wait for 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks that I need to make sure he stays busy so he doesn't start accumulating more requests of downtime, right? So, I mean, I got a pump station he can finish working on. He's got pumps and rails. I got the pipe work on the west side of the lagoon he can do. And then hopefully after a week, we're drained and dry enough that you could start taking out the berm and start moving dirt. So I'm hoping I'm okay for the next 2 weeks. This would be one of the things that would help keep him busy.
Well, we could possibly speed this up by having it in the work session, making it a special meeting so that we can add that to it and then going to a work session after that is completed if he's ready for that, and if that is needed.
Okay.
But I can't see.
A special session.
Yeah, special session. I think
All right.
that everybody is in agreement. Now, I have lots of questions. Deb's had her hand up the longest. Deb.
Well, I was just gonna say, get him to send over an itemized statement so everybody could have seen it tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was in there.
Answer questions and moved it forward.
He was supposed to provide that. In fact, it even says on, attachment, list documents supporting change.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been there, I think
I thought it
it
was
would
there.
have flowed through.
Yeah.
Okay, Bob?
If you're looking at replacing that splitter manhole,
Mhm.
can you get a itemized estimate from him on that you could then add to
Yeah.
that change order? So if he's buying manholes, he can buy all of them that's gonna be needed for
Same time.
the discharge line and that
Well, so,
replacement.
yeah, so remember we have that Preston inventory?
Yes.
And I think there could be a, Chuck too was supposed to go check and see if if there's a splitter out there already.
Oh,
That would
okay.
get the job done. I know there was some that had 3, not 1 going in.
Okay.
So, so yeah, that's all coming in the next, I told him I wouldn't entertain any change order for this out of sequence until water was going in that detention basin.
Okay.
So that was off the table until now.
Yep, good. Okay. Aaron, you had a?
No, yeah, I mean, just, if he definitely gets us by next week to itemize it, there's no reason we can't make a decision at that meeting.
Well, I think that the decision's probably already made up in our mind, but we didn't realize it tonight.
Yes.
My question is, have you seen it? Have you seen the itemized list yourself?
No, I did not see it. He was supposed to give that to me with his pay app. I reviewed his pay app and everything, and that was all good.
Nothing seen.
But no, there was nothing on that. I thought there was a second document that had a breakdown of his footage of pipe and 3 manholes and all that, so.
Is it something that we can
I verbally went over it.
hold until it's provided? Is there any reason that any of us think that it's going to be way out of whack?
I personally think that we should see it physically, and I think that we're, I mean, with us having a meeting a week from tonight,
Yeah,
it's not
7
too
days is
far.
better than 14 days.
I think that's good. And I guess that if it came down to the fact that he needed that, or you needed him to have that, before that time, I guess we could entertain a very short, special meeting if need be, but 7 days.
Yeah.
You
And honestly, I think that, I mean, I don't see anything out of whack with the number as it stands. However, it's a little more than my cost estimate that I had, number one. And number two, I want him to come back with a reasonable, number for the going out of sequence. So if that's negotiating leverage for the town, that, yeah, we'll give you this change order, but we want to see something reasonable when it comes to having you guys, because they work 10 hours, 12-hour days, overtime, so he's got overtime costs and stuff. So he's incurred costs to get this done for us. So there is something there, but I want that to be reasonable. And I have a number in my mind, right? And so, and he knows what it would cost for us to pump and haul. And when we were saying we were gonna pump in all the Keystone and stuff like that. So I said, pump and haul, and then we could just let you do whatever you want, start April 1st, you know what I mean? So there's gotta be some kind of realistic number there. I'd like to see if that comes back to you, but that other number's there too, so that's behind us. You know what I mean?
Okay, so you got 7 days to develop
Yeah,
for him to put all.
he
that
does,
together.
because I don't have time.
You need to put all that.
He went over on the phone with me,
And
the
maybe
change
that-
order,
Maybe that.
so that's why I thought, well, okay,
It would be here.
it's there. He was telling me the numbers, and I said, okay, these all seem realistic. I mean, they're similar to his other bid item. But then if that document never showed up in there, so.
I had do we have a question here, a comment? No?
No, I
Okay.
think before you, issue any, you should have a description of what the material is. That's just a standard construction practice. You just don't, here's a check.
Yeah, exactly. Little things like a manhole or whatever, like that other one I'm saying is a change order, that's gonna happen. That's just gonna happen, and I don't think that's gonna be a big deal. It's, I mean, we've got his itemized, well, how much does a manhole cost installed, right? It's a couple grand or whatever. So we know kind of, you can't just all of a sudden throw a number out of thin air, but it's how to sequence, that's kind of a, you know, I don't even know. You know, I just have an idea.
Wow.
Would that, estimate possibly change if he's gonna have a subcontractor working for him that's maybe doing some of that work? And
I don't know. I know that some of the concerns he's raised were, he has a massive haul truck out there, which is getting a lot of the work done. And he asked if Butler Cap would take it back, they could take it off the lease and all that. And they said, yeah, sure, you can bring it back, but we can't guarantee you'll get it back this season. So that's one concern he's got.
Yep.
The other concern is he has a certain number of guys on payroll. And if he says, hey, you guys need to go home right now or something, or we're moving some people to a new job, he's committed those resources elsewhere. And for us to get him back is almost like a partial mobilization. So I know those are the two main concerns.
And that is up to him, not up to us.
Yeah, it's all his problems, but.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So next on the list is approved payment of finally egress easement to both Custer and Pennington County. So I've got our north water tank with this attachment in the hands of DNR right now. That was the last thing, and they also had a spec book that was the last thing. So that, I'm waiting for them to say, I'm good to go out to bid. And I would expect that within a week, because we don't need their money. We already have the money, so. And they kept asking me, is there no other, are you sure there's no funding from us in this? And I said, no, there's no funding. This is ARPA money from Custer County. We don't need any of your money. So then they're like, oh, okay. And then they'll ask me like a couple weeks later, are you sure there's no money there for us? So no, there's no money there. So that's where we're at. And this easement needs to get filed so that we can get to the water tank that we're trying to build. And also the well, that you guys voted to approve. That's the way we get to it, is this serendipitous route that we had to take thanks to some dealings that were done back in probably the 50s, which restricted easement, restricted approach access onto the highway on any of that property when they readjusted the highway. So
Yeah, that was a bummer.
yeah, these people like Wade Short said it was his grandfather that did it. We didn't even know. Most of the landowners didn't even know it was an issue.
Aaron,
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the payment with finally the university guys.
motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
I made it. I will second it. Any other questions or comments?
I have a quick comment, it's kind of off subject, but kind of concerns us as far as where the, ingress are on the highway. Has anyone given any thought how long it takes to get on a DOT list for a project? 5 or 7 years, once you get approved on a project, you're clear at the bottom. My concern is we have these 3 subdivisions going in along the highway, and we have kids that obviously we're gonna have to bus to school at some point, but there's, in the summertime, we can't control that, they're gonna be walking the tip. And we have, I just wanna put that out there, we need to start thinking about contacting DOT now, before it all goes in and then we have a problem. I don't want the kids to get hit on the highway. And I don't know if our, being an expressway is considered like a interstate where they don't allow stoplights. I don't know what the best option is going to be, but it's definitely something we need to think of as this is all going on. And it goes along with this.
And Anthony already has contact with the DOT and spoke with them a lot, and that is something that will have to be brought up definitely.
But DOT said it's out of their hands. It's a 52-step process that they said they've never seen anybody go through. And it would involve an appraisal of the property as is, and then with the second approach. And you pay the federal government the difference. So, which first time I've seen that. And we're reconstructing 19 miles east of Scottsbluff, putting 2 lanes in. Never had that issue. So, yeah.
What's the filing fee on this, do you know?
$30.
30.
Okay, but
On, Shannon's, concern, cattle pass, underpass, or an overpass?
There's already a cattle pass.
Put the kids through?
That would make a nice bike path. That's good. Good idea.
I mean, use what you got if it's possible.
It'd just be nice to get it done as we're building it instead of how we have been after the fact. And it takes so long to get on a DOT project, so it'd be nice to kind of know how we're going to control that as it grows, instead of waiting for it to be a problem.
Has the town approached them as far as speed limits since everything's going that way? I'm sure you
They did
have.
move them back with the new city limits.
Yeah.
But they're a little farther out.
Again, you're still slowing down highway traffic, and unless it's Maverick Junction or something along that line, and still they're slowing it down, but they're not stopping it, so.
it's still, whether we like it or not, you know, we've been down that road and it was like, what was the answer? Nobody's died there yet?
Yes, just right here inside it.
Yes, good right here. So, sad but true. Sad but true.
There's a couple Lexus out there right now.
Right there.
Yeah, and those had extenuating circumstances, so kind of didn't count.
Because again,
Kind of how the way they say that. But we keep talking to them, you know, and we'll keep working on it. So lowering the speed limit, way lower would be way better in that area. And we as citizens here know this, but, you know, we're little people compared to all those other big places.
just like all the,
Stoplight would work better.
all the close calls at Shore Road. I started slowing down at 55 on the north side of the hill. I just let the hill slow me down.
Period. And that's gonna get worse. Absolutely.
And with the drive-in too.
And the drive-in, if it gets
It's
open.
usually backed up all around. The road clear downhill.
All right, back to where we're at here. So did we vote on that? Okay, all those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, Anthony, thank you. 8 has been removed until the contractor calls us and wants it back on. That brings us to 9 claims. Oh, I'm on the wrong agenda. I wrote on the wrong. Okay, sorry. B, permit 2025-04, FYI propane bottle filling station. Parcel 004135, marking Francine Crossley. That would be our campground. And that is, FYI, we don't even need a motion on it. We thank you. It's goes through, correct?
I think Anthony looked at this one.
Yeah, as long as it respects the setbacks and, it goes through a state inspection, so.
Thank you. That's a good addition to the campground.
Well,
Okay.
and it's open to the community.
Open to the community.
Anybody that wants a bottle filled,
What's your price gonna be?
cheaper than anybody else.
Good answer.
Look, Eddie made a difference to me.
So whose propane will it be? Who's put the tank in?
I'm putting it in.
Yeah.
I bought the tank, it's my own tank.
Okay, but who's gonna fill it?
I'll decide that and get you the best price. I am starting with one outfit, I'm starting with one outfit because it gave me a lot of help in this. And then we'll see how they treat, but if there's somebody that's significantly lower, then I will move to them, but right now, I'm hoping without this, got my service right now.
And so are you ready right now?
We got the tank, we're not gonna start for at least a couple, 3 weeks. I got too many irons in the fire right now.
Okay.
But you'll see it out by where it's gonna be, it's just seeing on a couple of timbers right now. And then the contractor's gonna let me know when to get an excavate and put the power and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully, let's just say hopefully by May, hopefully.
Thank you.
I just want to say, again, thank you for submitting this. Because then it gets added to your property file and, we'll show the history of and dates of when things are added and it's helpful to have.
We're just starting.
We appreciate that.
Just starting.
Thank you. All right, so that brings us to C, review of Custer County building permit, extraterritorial area, map Elledge, on Cassidy Street, 1425, 251 Cassidy Street.
It's in your extra copy if you were. So I did have Anthony look at this one as well. And in the email I got from Custer County Plan, because it falls in that extraterritorial area, so it's not in the town limits, so it's within that mile. What they told me is we typically, I guess, do an informational permit, so they fill one of those out. They kind of want the town's blessing before they'll approve the building permit.
What's your building?
A barn dominium.
Barn committee.
So this property is in Paramount Point, where it's at. So they're kind of their own thing. I mean, they don't have any hydrants, couldn't put out a fire if I wanted to. So, there's some things that my hands are tied because of the historical development of the property. So, did you guys get anything beyond that? So that's this one here.
Thank you for pointing out where it's at, because I didn't know.
Right here on top.
This is the blameless.
Oh, you're looking for the actual.
Yeah.
So obviously I've gotten into kind of so that really would have been more like Neil giving a staff report. I think that as long as it doesn't violate any of the ordinances of Neil, I can't do anything from the water sewer side, from the engineering side, other than setbacks and the plat and him feeding those, which I think the county's gonna make sure that happens. And that his septic tank is big enough. That's also gonna be something that they would have the jurisdiction on. I think that you could approve it on the condition of the staff report from Neil, which I've asked him for. I was hoping you'd have it ready today. I apologize, that came in on the 14th. Somehow I didn't see it. And Carrie reminded me that day when we came in here, that I came in here, you were in a meeting. So Neil just has to give you a staff report and you should be good to go.
Somebody like to make a motion to approve this as long as we get us the staff report?
I'll make that motion.
I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All those in favor, John, excuse me.
I just have a question, for Anthony. If this were within the city limits, how would it be what zone they're in as far as, stick built and modular, R2, R1?
Yeah, it would
How
still
would
be,
you look at it within our own town?
yeah, it would still be single family residential. R1.
Okay.
Um, but it's just the architectural, it's a barndominium, so, you know, it's a fire related thing with barndominiums, right? Because it's a barn. But they're turning into a residence, so fire rated walls, things like that, that all goes through that type of scrutiny. Um, a lot of times you see that because, and don't get me wrong, I've got two uncles who are truck drivers, so, but a lot of truck drivers do that because they can put their semi in. And it's good, it's a good thing, you know, works good, so, but they're working on their semi, and if they have an oil fire, the whole place is going up, like I said, I have no way to put out a fire out there.
But that's, I mean, that is sad.
Yeah.
But that's the way that is. I mean, we can't control that either.
Yeah, I mean, maybe one day there's something you do for those residents if they want, but right now, we just have to get ourselves
Exactly.
strengthened.
Any other questions or comments on this?
This was not something that we were looking at, incorporating at Paramount Point and then with these other elements. We cannot. So then it doesn't matter if it's county setbacks or our setbacks.
It's, yeah, the county has the approval on it. It's just informational for, basically for us, and
We are.
we have to.
Sending our approval.
have to make a motion. Because
Approve
it's
the blessing with the.
I know it seems kind of silly, but it is, it's to do with the extraterritorial permit, and we need to follow the rules that we agreed upon with either Custer County or Pennington County, either one. And so, just following those rules.
Following our wishes.
Well,
I mean, I guess the way you could understand it is that if they come in with something crazy, that it totally isn't within our ordinance, then it makes sense. So we could say we don't want that within our jurisdiction or that distance from our town. But it's single family residence, you know, it's not even, I think we have those in town, right? So.
okay, so, a motion to, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you, Bert. Okay, now can we move to claims? Okay. Do you have,
What's that?
do you have something, sir?
I do not, actually. We didn't do the update on town hall.
We're in claims right now.
That's
We're doing
next.
claims right
That's
now.
next. After claims.
We're on Terry.
Yep, we're on claims. So, all right. Any questions or comments about the claims? Mr. Hosworth?
I was just wondering on Mr. Ferguson's
Point of order.
deal here, that what is the ditch cleaning?
You want an explanation?
Yeah.
You got the bill here? She's getting the breakdown.
And then the other one I had a question on was the on-call building official services. Now, is that basically for reviewing the building permits and extraterritorial or anything that we've got on that side of it too, Anthony?
So the on-call building officials like to, when they ask questions, like, can I use this material? Or can, you know, is that in our allowable, in our ordinance, in our code? It does cover some of the initial costs, but they pay a permit review. They pay on top of that, they pay like 65 cents a square foot. And that comes with 4 on-site inspections.
Right.
So the on-site inspection stuff's the 65 cents square foot, and then all the paperwork review, answering comments, supporting Terry to deal with the permitting, that's in the on-call. And that's just as needed.
Which we get reimbursed for all of that, so.
This is a question about the claims.
Yes.
It is allowable,
Madam
and
Chair,
he
I
is
just wanna
still
make a
getting,
motion on the floor.
his- all right? Do I have a motion to accept the claims?
I'll make a motion to approve the claims as ordered.
Okay, we have a second.
Second.
Thank you both. Go ahead, continue your discussion, please.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
So, and probably what you're seeing in these claims is also, we were dealing with FEMA stuff that Joan mentioned too. So,
Yep.
things like that they needed, in order to put things together, like they asked my company to, submit to SHPO on the site that's on the top of the hill where we're gonna receive a generator. Of course, FEMA's requirements for the State Historic Preservation Office are different than the state's. The state does their own through Black Hills Council. So like they're two different requests. They couldn't be like, I couldn't double up on them. We tried. And so like that had to be a separate request. They came back with stuff. And then all our maps and stuff that we prepared and gave for the FEMA grant. I put that through our building official on call. So it's a little more than, the pace at which that contract is being utilized a little bit faster than I like to see, but I think that's going to slow down quite a bit now with FEMA's stuff kind of slowing down. So.
Go ahead.
And that was the one we had earmarked for 10,000 a year.
Yep.
Cal, 'cause that's what I was gonna ask too.
Yeah, it's within that. Yeah.
That's that month.
Yep.
Okay. Well, with the haul off sod and dirt from the V ditch.
And looks like it was also for the water line too. The treatment plant.
Does the V ditch, so that I would call the V ditch the,
Well, the whole thing, I mean, there's more than one.
V-Ditch is the third item on that list.
And that was five, what?
577.50.
To clean the ditch.
Yep.
Go ahead and explain, Chuck.
That was the debris that came out of the ditch. We had cleaned it out because original use was going to be to use that ditch, and it had quite a bit of silt and sod and stuff in it over the years, so we dredged it out, and that stuff was laying alongside the ditch, so in the process of mowing and stuff, we had to clean that stuff up.
So basically, this is work that was done some time ago. And because of the fact that it was whatever, the weather wasn't necessary, or we thought we were gonna keep the ditch, that things changed a little bit.
They had quite a bit from what the original
Yeah.
source was. The stuff had to be cleaned out of the ditch, and we actually did a test run on the water.
Mhm.
And so this stuff was along the ditch that had to be cleaned up. As it turns out, the ditch is going to go away, so that's the report.
That was my question. That's why I questioned that, well, why did we clean it if it was gonna go away? I know that was in the original agreement. And then on the lagoon pumping, what is that involved in?
I explained it earlier, that we're pumping from A into B and C into B and from B into the retention pond.
Right, so the ditch cleaning was like 2 or 3 months ago then.
No, well, that was paid for prior. This last deal of cleaning out the debris, but just not.
we've got 2 billings on cleaning the ditch. That's going away then.
Anthony, you had a comment on this?
Yeah, so I mentioned that, Chuck, when he was working on stuff related to the lagoon expansion, especially, there's a project number 112515 that'll help Terry to track these expenses relative to the other expenses in the town. Because, we can request those to be included in our loan and spread those costs, that we reimburse ourselves for those costs, and then we spread those over the 30-year plus term of the loan. So, I know that it's kind of a monumental task doing all the accounting on things from, you have the contractor, you have Benish, you have, things the town has paid for directly, outside of the contract from Borough. But I think we can always submit those to Greta.
And what is that number again, 1125?
Yeah, 112515 is our project number. So if we code any of these expenses as that, then we'll be able to track those and reimburse ourselves. Some of that's grant money, so not all
Okay, Dan, did you get your questions answered?
Yep, thank you.
Good, thank you.
I have a quick question. What is the solar speed radar sign replacement? Do we have to get a new one?
Yeah, we got hit.
One that got damaged in the accident, so it will be reimbursed by the insurance company. But we had to, Progressive said we would need to pay for it, and then committing a reimbursement. And we'll get that money back.
That was when I was five.
It's in December.
Any other questions on the bills, claims?
Nice to hear about good.
That is nice.
Wow.
The sun was going too fast, is why they had the speed radar on it? Sure.
We can say that. So, sounds kind of better, doesn't it? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
And Donna abstains. So that brings us to the law enforcement updates. We interviewed and we had a second interview, and just as a formality, the board all would like to offer the man we interviewed the position. Is that correct?
Good, you good? Yeah.
You good? You good? You good?
Yeah.
Okay, so at this point, the next point is to get his, background check done, security check done. And as soon as we do that, and we know that that's clear, then we'll be able to offer the gentleman a position. He did agree to working for $15 an hour for the town until he is certified. Certification will not happen until November. The next open class starts in August and goes through November. He will do the whole school. The schooling is basically 40 hours a week, 13 weeks in Pier. It is free to the town or to any community that has an officer that they want to be certified. Hehowever, it is mandatory that the town pays the wage during that time. So for 40 hours a week or whatever he's in training in school, the town will be paying him. He was willing to accept $15 an hour, which was very kind and a very low wage for this one. So I appreciate it. I thank him and the board.
And willing to do security work up until school, so he can start immediately with him.
Take the board first. Go ahead.
I'd just like to suggest that the board consider doing some kind of a retainer policy that once he does get certified, that we require him to work for the town for a certain amount of time before he can.
That has been discussed. He did also agree to a contract like that. It will be up to the board to get one and our attorney to get one written up. At one time, we mentioned a 2-year contract to make it worth our while to pay for that schooling. But the board will discuss that and we will have that information out to you as soon as we all have it. Sure.
Do you get any motions to move forward with the background check?
I don't think we need a motion for a background check. I think that's pretty much law enforcement. That's all that has to work. We'll need the motion when we get that and have the board approval. Any other, Bob?
How many week training did you say that was?
13
13
weeks.
weeks.
Mhm. Yep. And they have an opening then. For those that don't know, I think it was the last class they had, was the first full class they had had in years and years and years. So that's a good thing because law enforcement is down all over the state, so I think all over the nation. Go ahead,
I
Sharon.
think it's worth noting, also that he comes with some experience, that he did up in Alaska. What was the other place? Is he doing any of that?
No, it's all in Alaska. Right now, he lives in Fargo, North Dakota, and his job that he still had in Alaska, when he went there, it was 3 flights, a boat ride, a moose, I don't know. There was a lot for him to get to his work. And so, he is, and that was in small communities. He prefers the smaller communities. He had, I think he said 5 different communities that he was law enforcement for, so there was a lot of travel time for him. He dealt with the Eskimo tribes in Alaska and their laws and their rules. And so he is familiar with changes between counties and cities. And he knows that he'll have a lot of learning and research to do in our community with the being so close to Pennington and yet, and the reservation and Custer County. And him and his wife and children are looking forward to the change down here to South Dakota. They're hunters and fishermen, and yes, and so that kind of, they fit right into our community, and so we're very happy. We had 9 applications. We were pleased with that also, and we had some very good ones, so it was nice. Yes, Bob.
How can you come from Alaska and not be a hunter?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I said. I said,
And
well,
where he was at.
yeah. I said, no bear, but no moose. He mentioned moose. I said, no, they're only here very occasionally and you're not hunting them, you know, but.
Catch that one that was running around.
I don't think they caught him. I think they maybe pushed him out, pushed him back to Wyoming or something. All right, so that's our update on law enforcement. We do not have any logs this time. That brings us to legal. Kent, what do we got? Anything?
I don't have any of you don't.
Okay. We will be, like I said, when we talk about that, we will be having you write up a contract or approving the contract. Thank you. Bob?
Do we have a contract from a previous marshal that?
I don't think that it would be the proper one because no, we haven't had a marshal. It was a helper or I think you're talking about Brad maybe?
No.
No, okay. I don't think we have had that type of a contract with the office.
We had to have, but we renewed it.
A contract, but not a contract as in we requiring 2 years for the payment of his training.
But again,
yes.
We've got something to start with that we can then modify.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we do. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, yes, sir.
I just can't resist
This is real name or does it?
That is first thing I asked him, what exactly is your name and what do you prefer to be called? His last name is Alias.
Alien?
Yeah, so just to explain to you why we're kind of making a joke about this,
And
yeah.
Eric with an A.
Eric with an A is his first name. So Eric A. Kind of funny, I've never heard that last name before. That was a new one,
I've never seen
new one on me.
Eric spelled that way either.
Much of it down in Roswell.
Oh.
Yeah, Roswell.
Thanks, Bob.
Right close to home.
Yeah, for you, yeah. All right, that brings us to Public Works. Mr. Ferguson, what do you have new and exciting you haven't already discussed?
Excuse me, I won't say.
Yep, I'll forgive you for not standing. You are allowed. Speak up, please.
With the moisture and stuff that's going on, there's a lot of potholes going up as usual. And fairground place took really bad hit. With extra truck traffic and that stuff, I think that, when the job is near completion, so there's not so much heavy traffic, we're probably going to have, we're going to go back to the contractor or what, that street is gonna have to have attention. It got really, really muddy, sloppy for a while, and when it dried up, then it got very rough. And, probably we'll have low or no dust, but it's gonna need some attention. So something you should keep in mind down the road.
Okay.
Street lights, we did have a couple repaired. I don't know of any other than the one on the very end of, street, behind me, the single resident down there. The water, everything is pretty good shape. We're not having any real problems. We'll know more about what's going on the water, the loss report. The project at the lagoon has taken quite a bit of water. They're hauling bulk water from us. And they have a fully equipped truck with all requirements. And I talked to Wyatt, he is the circuit rider for waterworks in South Dakota, rural water. We do have some hydrants that need some attention. They have been bagged in the meantime to, and the fire department has been notified of those that do not work. So that will be an upcoming project if those back online. Anthony's pretty well covered the new system and everything is flowing on the hill. And there will be some infrastructure and some other things that will have to be addressed up there, I'm sure. And that's one of the things that came up by moving the well further to the west, not going far enough to make any advantage, but the further west you go, the more infrastructure you have to put in to get from that point back to original. So that was not brought up, but that will certainly be a huge factor trying to get that from there to there. Okay, sewer is just been unreal. The work that's been done and has to be done, and pumping has been horrendous. We have to de-water on C and on B, and still maintain daily flow in Pond A. And one of the things that's creating some of this smell is the fact that we are pumping out of A into B, so those levels have been lowered. So we're getting closer to the good stuff that's on the bottom. And I've played with the idea of more enzymes, bugs, whatever. It's kind of fruitless to put them in. They have to have 50-degree water temperature first. We have not reached that at this point. But then,
What are we about at?
well, we're around about 40 degrees. I
A
mean,
couple of ways then.
yeah, it's thawed everything out and, you know, there's no, but, to put those in, it has to be at that temperature. And we have not maintained that temperature. The problem is that we have higher temperatures, but at night it goes down. So we've got to wait till those temperatures are right. Plus the fact that we're pumping out of there, so we don't really want to pump the bugs out of pond A over into pond B, and then dispersed over in. So they're not horribly expensive, but it doesn't make sense. You know, the turnover has already happened. I believe that pumping it down every day is exposing the solids, and that's what's creating that, you know, we may be able to agitate this solids and help some of that odor, maybe. We're pretty busy with pumping and taking care of the other issues at this point. Unfortunately, we have entered up to the wildlife. The old geese that have been coming back for 4 or 5 years, and they're kind of wandering around with their legs crossed, looking for someplace to nest. Being that we burnt all of their habitat, and today we actually made some nests and deployed them over there. Whether they take to them or not, I don't know.
Well, thank you.
We're making an attempt. We're making an attempt to give them a home.
Yes.
The other thing they're going to experience when they get about ready, there's not going to be any water in the pond. So I don't know how far they're going to drag the little ones to get wet. One of the things they do is they nest very close to the water, so predators. And anything happens to the alert from the male goes off, and they take the children and splash in the water and get out to safety, because predators will not swim out to have a duck dinner, you know. So we're trying to accommodate the girls over there. Hopefully they will accept what we built for them.
Are these the great grandchildren?
Oh, yes.
The
Yeah,
same
they
family
started
that
out
comes back every year?
about
when
10
they're-
years, started out with 3 original. Then we got into children and grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren, and we're up to about 15 that try to stay
All year.
longer. And we still, I'm quite certain that the original
Here.
homesteaders have been murdered or went away. So just trying to maintain a little bit of habitat at the same time that all this is going on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And the geese thing, yes.
On the water, our big generator down there, the batteries have expired. I got 1,000 full crank batteries in there because over the years they're out of warranty, and they probably will run somewhere to get the type that will give us a service in cold weather. Probably $150 a piece.
And we need how many?
It's 2, it's a 24-volt system. Well, we'd have to get permission to get some new batteries in there. And we started it probably a couple months ago and ran it for a few hours. The batteries themselves, we had maintainers on them. Actually, Bob put the maintainers on several years ago. And those have also expired, and they're not working anymore. So we just need to get some new batteries in it and get it back up into shape. Like that motion to buy the batteries. I don't think it's probably necessary because in repair funds of water, it's probably all under that.
We have enough funding left for that water. I mean, it's only March.
I'll make the motion.
April.
Okay,
Okay.
the two. Can you get a rebate on the old ones anywhere?
Well, there's a culvert to turn them in, you know.
Yeah. That
Not
might
much,
bring it down a little bit.
not much. They show evidence of swelling, which may throw somewhere in there.
Bob? Oh, sorry.
They charge you for that core charge anyway when you buy the new one.
Yes,
So you're charged for it, and unless you bring your old battery back, you pay that extra core charge. So
So
yeah.
it's kind
You
of a
don't really
wash
get a
if you bring the
rebate.
old ones in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And those, maintainers, I think, I got it, Harbor Freight, and they weren't, that expensive, but
Yeah,
they did the job.
They did their job. Mhm. Okay.
Maybe that'll-
So, no, I don't think you need the maintainer yet. Am I correct on that?
probably not, you know. But it depends on how often you start it and how long it runs. The alternators that are on that will charge those batteries, but you have to run it at least once a week or something like that. It's not really that feasible to run a standby that often.
So you made a motion to approve the purchase of 2 new batteries.
Generator.
Mhm. Okay, do I have a second?
750 each. That expense.
On the open work orders, we have,
Hang on just a minute, please.
okay,
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Thank you. And Aaron? All those in favor? Aye. Okay, motion carried. So I have to go back to streetlights.
yes,
I have been twice when all the lights on Highway 79 were off. Is there a reason for that?
not to my knowledge. We do have one on the corner over here that just went down in the last 2 or 3 days. I don't know if we have any in stock. I usually was carrying one, the price was $800-900. So,
Wow. Did anybody else notice that the lights on 79 were off? Bob?
About 6 o'clock in the afternoon, they're all.
It really was dark
yeah,
when I noticed it.
I have not seen it.
Okay, would you please check that out tonight when
What
you leave here?
time, just,
It was, I never know, very late, so it must have been 8, 9 o'clock, something like that when I noticed it. And it's probably 8, because one time we were coming back from getting firewood, so we had to be getting firewood when it was light out. But we were down Friday night. Maybe you didn't notice? Okay, I'll take notice again and I'll call you if I notice it.
Okay.
All right, so back to open work orders. You have gotten some things done.
we
I
have,
noticed that when I was reading meters, thank you.
and some of those have been corrected, and looking for a new update from probably the finance officer on the dues.
Okay, by golly, we'll get you
That's the
some
one
money.
thing there that you completed, I just didn't get the report.
Okay,
I'm working on it.
Attaboy.
yep, thank you. All right,
That's, yes, there's another, on the fees, streets again, and obviously that,
I have that on my list to add that for, maybe a little bit of discussion at a work session. Not the next one, but whatever comes next, so on the Ferguson Street.
Fairgrounds Place Road, wasn't it?
Fairgrounds Place Road.
In Wilson Avenue.
Yep.
we, a lot of bad, potholes have popped up after this last snow and moisture, so.
Sure.
Ferguson Street does me,
There's some babies on that.
Okay,
and McDermott, and.
and the whole 9 yards. Yeah.
Fifth Street.
Okay. All right,
I think that's it.
thank you, sir.
Somebody has a question.
Anybody have any questions for Chuck? Any? You're off the hook.
Too bad.
Oops, Bob.
How's your health going, Chuck?
Yeah, I just feel wonderful.
All right, that's the main thing.
Cal, what other streets did you mention?
I talked to him about it.
Whitney,
The one that's
Ferguson.
I'd like to know. I get the
We
list from you.
can go over that.
Whitney, Ferguson, Donna.
If it's a road in Hermosa, it's
Josie.
probably gonna mention. So, if you want to list, there's basically everything.
Thank you.
Yep. Dan?
And I talked to Shannon a little bit, if it'd be okay to drive around with her and show her, and then Pennington County would like to come down and look at everything.
Apparently,
Excuse me, everybody, let Dan finish, please.
And so it's just a matter where, I know we talked last time Shannon was still in charge of streets, or is
He
that
is still in the Aaron's vice of street.
correct? So I mean, if he wants to come along, that's great too, and see what we've got. And, you know, we've had the luck of always having the county come down at a municipal price versus a private, and we've always taken advantage of that. Just like the state, if we can piggyback on any of their projects, so.
It's always.
But I wanted to go over what items on the streets that I felt you could be addressed and done and satisfied and cleaned up. And so,
I appreciate that. If you would contact both of them and make sure you can get, I know everybody has schedules, but I would like to see all three of you together, going through the roads and coming up with some sort of a plan. Thank you, yes.
so is that a part of being on the streets is having to let Dan kind of call us out and manage it?
Dan has been taking care of the streets and has had the, basically had the job for quite some time. And he has his ideas of what he thinks would be right, and you're more than willing to get his. And then if you would like to have somebody else give you a drive around, if you wanna, ask, any of the other contractors out there that do streets, and if you want to get a bid from them also, it's absolutely a good thing. So as long as we don't take, 4 months to do so. Okay? All right?
I've been on the streets for a week and I was, given a phone call at 6 o'clock an hour about streets and I didn't respond with, yeah, sure, I'll come jump in your truck and go for a ride. And the next thing you know, it's like, next meeting, now we need to talk to Shannon. It's just, how about we just let the streets committee handle streets and we don't need to get a supervisor from the office.
He's not a supervisor. He has been the person that has handled the streets for the most part for quite some time and has the knowledge of our streets and what has happened. And, his knowledge and experience with our streets and the time that he has put in, I think we owe him the respect. He's willing to put in that time to do their streets for us. And I think he deserves the chance to tell you what he believes with his experience on our streets. And when that is completed, like I said, I think it's absolutely wonderful that if you can get another bid and get them to drive around with you and give you what they believe would be the right specs for the street and then bring it forward to the board, I think it's definitely worth discussing. Done.
But I believe Mr. Ferguson has done quite a bit on the streets also. Let's give him credit too.
No, absolutely, yeah. We have thanked him, and he is the one that mentioned to us.
So we go Dan, he knows what he's doing.
Donna, please, all of you, please. I know everybody does, and so do I. Kent, I would like a word from you right now.
I just, based on the observation, it would seem like there might be a little trouble brewing in paradise as far as having Aaron on that committee, if he's not willing to observe different types of admissions.
Point of order.
I have, Kent has the floor right now of what I gave to him.
There 5 board members, not 6.
Oh, no, there's 7. Okay.
All I'm saying is, it's a benefit to, I don't care who you are, it's a benefit to gain as much historical knowledge about your tasks ahead of you. So I fail to see the cavalier attitude being helpful.
Thank you.
I can,
Thank you, Sharon, you had your hand up.
I did, it was just a suggestion. If you don't wanna ride around with Dan, I would be more than happy to do it and come up with this plan. If you want to go with another contractor and come up with your plan, if you don't wanna use him as a resource, that's great, then we're getting 2 options to look at if you wanna do it that way.
I think that's,
Or you don't, I mean, first you're laughing that you don't wanna work with them and now you're acting like you do. I find either way,
No, my question was simple, does the streets committee have to subject themselves to the authority of someone who's not involved in the streets committee? Or is the streets committee responsible for going through the motions and doing the due diligence of taking care of the streets?
and that is part of the due diligence. Would be meeting with Dan, who has done a lot of street work, and if you'd like to also go around with Chuck and have him tell you what that is, both of you, I think that's a great idea. Like I said, the more information we have, the better.
and we don't all have that much time to do both. I would be more than happy to work with Dan if you want to work with Chuck. That's,
Well, the-
last time Chuck didn't have time, he was working on the lagoon. But if he's got time and manpower, absolutely he should put a bid in. And maybe Cam, I don't know who else works around here, Cam Miller.
Well, there are many people that do streets, and whether they're willing to come down for our small town, that's their company's decision, not ours.
And I
But
think,
without the phone calls, you won't know that.
I think we do have like a street
Ordinance book or,
ordinance
or,
or,
maintenance book.
yeah.
What, somewhere, there used to be one over here, yeah.
what our streets are supposed to be kept up to, so. I don't have that knowledge, so I'm gonna go to the person that does have the knowledge.
Thank you. You guys can work that out, all 3 of you amongst yourselves. Mr. Ferguson.
let's not forget about the volunteer. The street work is supposed to be volunteer.
That is right. So, okay. We're done with streets? You done with streets, sir? Thank you. Dan, did you have anything further you wanted to say about streets?
No, I'll wait till the end of constituents, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, that brings us to finance officer. Terry, it's all you.
So no monthly financial will be at the next meeting. As far as the mail call, I did get an email from the state so that mosquito grant that we used to always try to apply for, with all the budget cuts at the state, that was one of the things that cut.
Oh, no mosquitoes, I mean, we have mosquitoes this year.
Yeah, so that's no longer gonna be available, so that was disappointing.
I talked to Monty about that, and, his suggestion is that we buy the pre-larva that you put in the water puddles and ponds and whatnot. And we do have some left, and we need to inventory what we do have and then decide what it's worth. But from last year, the experience that I remember is that pre-larvicide or whatever they call that worked quite well. And probably better than most of the times the spray worked. I think it gets ahead of the problem so that the spraying is not as needed. Mr. Ferguson?
It is a pre-treatment that takes care of the larvae. It actually kills the larvae when you put the Alticid in the pond.
Okay. And do you know how much we have of that left? Or do you have any?
I have not really looked at it.
Okay.
I think there is some. The last time I looked at the inventory, there was some. It comes in 500 pouch bag.
Right.
It will probably be certification time again. Especially last time, people were able to go. We'll have to see, but
Okay. Goes to the doctor tomorrow, his surgery.
Peg leg.
Peg leg, yeah, his peg leg.
Lonnie's
Yes, Sharon.
still spraying.
Yes, he
Okay.
does.
So I just wanted to mention that, at least that grant was paid for our trailer, right? Equipment and some of the chemicals that at least we still have,
That-
so,
That grant was wonderful.
yeah,
It's sad to see it go.
but at least we're more prepared.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay.
And then the only other thing I had, I believe at the last meeting, I got an email from James Jones with Western Dakota Regional Water System. He's asking for a meeting, I believe, with some of the board members. He wants to meet either April 8th, 9th, or late on the day on the 10th. So who would be
What you
available?
wanna discuss?
Well, it says he wants to schedule a time to meet with leadership. On one topic we'll discuss is likely the WDRWS connection point for water.
Mr. Anthony.
That's what I was
When are you available?
My former colleague and coworker of mine, she was a good coworker at KLJ. She quit in December from KLJ like 3 months before I left. That was her passion, was the pipeline from the Missouri. So I kind of procrastinated in talking to her, just not for any particular reason. But that'd probably be what I would do is, I mean, this person would be good too, but I'd like to see where she's at because they have no funding to do this. And we're talking in the hundreds of billions of dollars.
Billions, yes.
So they
So,
wanna see us for money?
well, New Underwood, for example, is really into it. Like the mayor of New Underwood's she's really involved. And Doug over at Box Elder, the old public works director, he was big on it. They're like on the committee. And I mean, from a conceptual standpoint, there's a lot that's been like studied, but they have major political issues because the reservations aren't interested in cooperating. They say it's somewhat of a violation of the Port Laramie Treaty. And they have core lines that go from the Missouri to the different reservations. Do they work? Well, they're not really sure. Some of them don't know where they're all at, but they exist, they're kind of weird. But a lot of times, the Bellfish has a line from Spearfish, it's a spring line. So it's like it naturally just springs, And so like, it's just weird stuff that's all around. So I think it's good that they study those things, like what's there now and how things could like somehow interconnect or things like that, because then you're kind of fact finding. But the bigger picture of like hooking us all up to the Missouri River will probably stall out because there's not enough people that live here to justify. So you just have to weigh how much time you want to spend with it,
So this is next week, April 8th, 9th, or 10th?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be around that. I'm away from the 16th until 20, 18, 19, 20, I'll be back the 22nd. Spring, Easter.
Did you say spring break?
Spring break, Easter, yeah. Easter week, yeah. I gotta go to Nebraska. I'm speaking at the conference in Omaha, so, yeah,
Oh, cool.
on the 17th.
Bob?
Is Rapid and the surrounding communities, they're looking at drilling wells down into Madison for water, and yet they're anticipating that may cover their growth, but then if more and more are tapping the Madison, that affects everybody.
Yep.
So that may be temporary until they get another water source, but again, all this stuff takes years and years and years to get a line from the river to here, so.
The last time I was at the meeting for the Missouri Water Project, I mean, the billions is crazy, crazy, crazy. And I'm pretty bold, I guess, but the first thing question I had for him was, why do you think you're gonna get it when everybody through the states wants that water? Why are we sure? And if you're going by population and the needs, down the river a little bit further has kind of more needs because they have more population. Nobody could give me an answer, and I don't think anybody was very happy that I asked that question, but, I never, whatever. Eric?
Probably best answered by Anthony, but the slow adoption of the Madison well, is that the heat? Is it the heat that keeps everybody from?
Well, that's specific to different people. So like us or New Underwood or Box Elder, we have some temperature. But if you go to Boulder Canyon, they don't have any. And they've got a pH of 8.9 or alkaline. So you can bottle it and sell it for a premium.
Yeah.
So it really depends where you're at in Madison. There's a lot of growth in the hills. I mean, it's more like the big money coming in, right? Where there's still water, there's still water supplies. It really is to see if the growth is sustained. If things like, for example, they did a conference. If you go to the Deadwood conference, there's I'll tell you when I go to the conferences here, you can attend. They'll talk about different like mini projects. Like for example, Respec, Leo's old company, did a presentation on water being taken from Blackhawk and Piedmont and brought over to Box Elder, right? Because to anticipate growth from the base. Problem is that you just see right there a little mini thing, because I was sitting next to a city council member from Blackhawk listening to the presentation. And he said, well, nobody even asked us if we wanted to share our water with Box Elder. So you're going to have that going on, right? So that, I think the solution is sometimes local, like is if everybody were to do the right thing to take care of their own water supplies, and some of this gray area is the county, right, where they're worried about it. See, there is no such thing in East River as this area that's gray and limbo, because there's something called townships, right, that exist between the different municipal limits. And so, and that's why in our case, we have annexation and extraterritorial jurisdiction, right? So like, I think it's just a matter of how we're organized, and how there's these rural water systems that are trying to take care of that gray area in the middle, no man's land. And so they're trying to funnel resources that potentially could go to the towns instead. So it could be to your detriment, I don't know. There's an argument on both sides, right?
The state controls how many wells get poked in the ground, right?
Correct.
Are they going to quit at some point?
So far, they said that there's plenty of unallocated water in the Madison, so they favor the Madison aquifer.
No, I just said.
And so like when we changed over from the Indian Cara to the Madison aquifer, all of a sudden they sent Black Hills local council governments to do our environmental review. Like they volunteered to do it and assign somebody. So you can see that they favor different directions.
Hopefully, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I don't, as far as that goes, I mean, I would meet with them here if they're wanting to do that. I have 4 o'clock on Tuesday, the 8th, open. We have to be here at 5 o'clock for a work session. Anthony, do you have that? All work sessions start at 5 now.
Tuesday?
Tuesday, the 8th, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay.
I'll try to reach out to
Yes, please.
College.
Very good. Next turn.
That's all I have.
No department updates. We are done at that. Okay. interviews or
Resume?
during resumes during the executive session. Okay, that brings us to old business, Roy's Drive-In, compose a letter to the VANR. Did that get,
I'm not sure who, I mean, I know. It's about me, right? But I don't know.
okay, all right.
Somebody with maybe some
Anthony?
knowledge of that.
I was waiting for them to contact me. I gave them my card at the last meeting.
Oh, for the realtor?
Yeah,
Okay, I can give her a call and have her.
Yep.
Call
Call
you,
yeah, call me, email me.
and that way he can actually I think it'd probably be best for him to get out on site. Maybe, right, and have a look at what he thinks about what's going on out there before we even contact the ANR, so you know exactly.
Yeah, you gotta figure out your ask first.
Yeah.
Very good, thank you. Thank you. All right, that brings us to new business. We've got that moved. Wow, really? Items from the citizens. Yeah, that surprised me. Any comments, questions from the citizens? Trina?
I started the meeting thinking that, I was really thankful for the whole board for, extending their terms, working so well together. There was obviously some friction during tonight's meeting. It doesn't make you look good, as a whole board when there's some that friction. So hopefully we can learn to communicate in a more respectful way, regardless of your personal opinions. It would do a lot for the town. Anyway, I am excited for the next year and I appreciate all of your work. And anything I can do to help support you, let me know. The website went live at 5:00. There are still some things to be done on it, and it's happening, and it'll happen kind of throughout the week. And I'll talk to Terry. I would like to, my original plan with the website, I'd like to create a public works page. So I'm gonna start that this week and get the updates on it. I won't publish it. I will leave that for Terry to hit that button that would allow that page to be published. So you guys can decide if you want it or who's gonna be in charge of that stuff. And I thought I would just continue doing updates until, the new admin assistant is ready to take over.
Thank you. We had some discussion, about that, I guess at the last work session. And, we feel like we need to maybe go back further on the recordings.
Oh, yeah.
And for you to, at one time you'd said, what, a year or whatever, and I think we need to go back further than that.
Yeah.
Excuse me just a minute.
We've got, 2 years up there right now. We can have as many years as you'd like, that, no problem. Because, when Terry purchased the new website, they gave us 100 gig. And as long as we're putting stuff in PDF form, that helps quite a bit. Our pictures are not that many. They take up a lot more space, but there's not really that many of them. So it looks really promising to have whatever you would like.
Let's go back, how many years, Board, what do you think? To have it on the website,
I think we were talking
research,
about
the minutes,
on any other stuff in there.
Minutes and agendas is what you're talking about.
John?
Yes, minutes and agenda, I don't think the audios are quite as important because they're a lot of times hard to hear and muffled and, but the minutes and the agendas, the, packets. Full packets with the agendas, all of that.
Doesn't matter.
Or,
Just keep working.
I would say
As far as, yeah, I mean,
7 to 10 years just for research.
we'll do what we can.
Okay.
And that's all housed on the computers here too. So after we get an admin
But
assistant
if
too,
you have a grandfather that doesn't work in this office, they can't raise their truck out.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're all housed here and so they'll have to be uploaded from here.
From here?
Yeah,
Okay.
Oh, put on, okay.
because I don't have access to them anymore.
Okay, thank you. Cal, you had?
Well, you said recordings, but
Yeah.
we're gonna put all those on YouTube. So we're not gonna have any of these on the website. And as far as other items regarding the town, we should put as much as we have on that website. And, if we fill that 100 gigs up, we should buy another 100 gigs and put that on there. And make sure that we,
Complete history.
well, we have a complete history, but then we also have a offsite backup as well on everything, which the website will also provide with us, or provide for us. So, yeah, I mean, just, it's redundancy, but also gives access to people like Joan that does a lot of important work for us, so.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Very good, thank you. Trina, is that?
Yeah, my 3 minutes.
All right. Next, Chuck, I think I see your hand up.
Yeah, touching back on this water thing just briefly, I was involved in, I've seen the blueprints, actual blueprints from coming from the Missouri to western South Dakota. And that pipeline was roughly 72 inches in diameter. And it showed picking up the different cities along the way. One of the main things is that South Dakota touches the Missouri River, so it isn't like an out-of-state company that's trying to get involved in it. And there was a former attorney was ramping up that deal to try to get things to South Dakota. And I worked with Bill Durst for months, and he was involved in the whole thing because he was trying to get water to Keystone. Which is, Rapid City has punched several wells into the Melaleuca, and if they didn't produce a minimum of 300 gallons a minute, they capped them off. So they were trying to not depend completely on Pactola water, and they drilled these strategic wells around Rapid City, and they didn't pan out. So, and we all know that that is the last real source of good water that's left in the state. So I've been involved in it for years, not necessarily for the town, but on the side. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Dan?
Yeah, and I want to just kind of mirror what Trina said, that I was happy that the board stayed the same. I don't know what animosity was created here with Aaron all of a sudden, but it's just a matter where the discussion is, basically, I've been volunteering for 20 years is what Mr. Ferguson kind of threw out there. And, you know, for a private contractor to come in, we really don't have a problem. All I've been is for the community and the user fees and the citizens is why I've donated all of this time and equipment to the community and took where we went to our levels that we did. For a couple of years there, and everything fell apart because I wasn't involved again. But it's a matter now, I would like to drive Shannon around, Aaron around. They can make their notes, they can make their own report, they can make their own studies. They know what maintenances need to be done at what times, what we did with Magwater, what we did with gravel, you know, and the plowing of the snow. A lot of that's what creates the potholes as they break the surface and the crowns. And so there's items of the maintenance there that are involved in them circumstances too. So it's a matter, if you look at 20 years of volunteering and what a contractor would have been paid over them 20 years and what I've given back to the community, it's for the community. And I've kept that on mind when we were on the boards too. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate the board members that do keep that open mind. And as what has been mentioned, it gets you nowhere to have a bad animosity and attitude on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
I just have a quick question. Are you the one that cleaned up all the gravel in my ditch?
No, my husband was.
Juan's been manually doing that.
I probably want to thank him. I just knew spring comes and warm weather, I was gonna be out there raking.
He went over to do my sister's, and you're right next door to her, in between the two of
That's
us.
so nice of him.
And yeah, he told, I don't know what day he told me he'd done that.
Oh,
So
no, straight.
I'll tell him when he has to go a little further.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll tell him that, yeah.
That was very, very nice. I appreciate it.
I'll tell him,
Rakes don't fit my hands real well,
yeah.
if I can put it off.
Yeah, exactly, I understand, yeah, okay, yeah. All right, anybody else? Bob?
I just wanna, thank everybody for a good meeting. I haven't attended very many of them. I think this is only like the second one I've attended since I retired twice, but, or resigned twice. But I can see, a great improvement in the board, their, communication, their actions, what's getting done. Not to say that this guy behind me didn't get a lot of stuff done, but it is a board of five, not a board of one or a board of two, so I see a lot of good working together and a lot of good experience here. So just, thank you for what you're doing and looking forward to the town.
Thank you, Bob, and I wanna say thank you for coming, it's nice to see you in the audience again. I do appreciate it.
Exactly what I was.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
I'm not surprised about that at all. So thank you, and we hope to see you again, so.
I just happened to read Connie's, submittal in the Hermosa News, neighborhood, whatever it is, that, and what was on the agenda for tonight. And a lot of the items piqued my interest, so I'm here.
Well, good, very good.
I'll try and review it a little more frequently and hopefully be here a little more often.
Good, thank you. All right, any other comments from citizens? Okay. Trustee input, and let it be known, we will be going into executive session tonight for personnel reasons. Trustee input? Cal?
No, I don't really have any right now.
Aaron?
No, I'm good. It's a good meeting.
Janet?
Since we are going to be reviewing somebody new for the office, and I have mentioned to Linda too that we might need to start thinking about bringing back a three-member P and Z board to be reviewing our permits if we have these forklifts taking off, like we expect that they will. So that we get that knowledge and history. And I tried to recruit Bob already. He said no, and I told him I'd ask him again in 2 weeks.
That's funny.
But I'd like to see Lon and Stone back on there and Bob as well.
That will be a discussion also for a work session.
If we go that route, I'm sorry.
Well,
I had
it's
to teach Bob about it, but.
it is a discussion, we need to discuss it.
Right.
We
So
need
that's
to
fine.
hash it out, so that will
You
be,
need to bring them back.
Yep. okay,
Add it somewhere.
add it to a work session somewhere. Thank you. John?
None.
No.
And thank all the volunteers. Volunteers over the years and volunteers out there. Volunteers everywhere.
Very nice. I would just like to say thank you to everybody for coming. Thank you for your input. Thank you, Trina. I do appreciate you vocalizing that. And is on my agenda to discuss with the board also. So we'll carry that into executive session. I'd like to thank you all. I take a motion to take a 5-minute break and then enter into executive session. And
I'll make a motion to recess. And then
8:52 is recess.
motion to recess.
I'll second that.
And Tana, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next 5-minute break.
Thank you.
Don't be calling.
With me either.
You know?
Coming up in town.
I've already been asked. My neighbor next door, she's got a garage full.
You always say, with the real win-win. It's a win-win, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Laura,
Except when I take one out and I break down.
That's, between you and Linda, I think that's the biggest problem. Sweeter.
I don't.
Did you get that flyer on the cleanup?
What happened, I was here. This is, I just found an old one and I just kind of updated it, so, and it went in the new.
My other one does.
Oh,
I have a coat that says that.
Oh, that's funny.
I can fix that first thing. Maybe
You don't have to send it to them.
No, that's perfect.
Every time make some copies, put them out around every place.
Yeah.
It's in the newsletters.
Yeah, I think all they did is post office and here and.
There's so many
Yep, that's where they get you.
server that you have to put this, that you can manually, but you have to put more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been building websites like so I can see how it's changed.
Yeah, and that's what it's sad to see.
Really good.
Area, so manufacturing, people trim.
And then, once you start, they keep you going.
Yeah.
You can't keep that.
Thank you, my friend.
I gotta be careful too. So we will have.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wait. I gotta get this.
Very good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, take care. Thanks, all.
It's not working.
Yep.
I'm
You like it?
Probably
I used to, you, it won't work, or?
Barb says,
No.
there's that guy that zip with a lawyer. That's good.
Since 5 o'clock.
She didn't
I don't know, I have
recognize
to
it.
check though.
Yeah.
I was on my.
Yeah.
It's an easy
Little
fix.
fish, getting ready to do a bunch of umpiring this summer.
Oh, no kidding?
Well, slow pitch
Okay, that's fine.
softball, so.
Oh, that'll be fun.
This is gonna be like my 7th year at it, also.
What league is that that you?
It's adult slow pitch, so it's, and adult men and women, and also co-ed, so. 5 nights a week, 4 games a night, tournaments a month. Until
Did the August put it that way?
Started nights on it. And then, they,
I want another cookie, Bob, let me
It was good, it's so stuffy in here.
I know. We did feel good.
Yeah, I've been looking forward back.
I've been, yeah. Well, this will be my 8th year, I think.
You must love it to do that.
Well, I was playing until I was 65, and I just turned 73. And I was playing and umping at the same time, but then we got to where they were needing umpires more than players, and so.
So you're gonna use that time anyhow.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Bob,
Perfect.
Brady's playing on post 22.
All right.
Yeah. Well, he played the fall days last week.
Which son is on the hockey?
That was our niece's son.
Niece's son, okay.
Yeah.
I saw where they,
They really
killed,
They had a real killer.
one lost, the whole.
Yeah, and that was when they got to California, which that didn't even really, yeah, they were, those kids, they worked together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Really good to see you, Bob.
Good seeing you.
Gosh, I've missed you.
I see Waylon around occasionally, but.
He left me about 3 years ago.
But.
No, I got another one of those.
Here, if I use for executive wrestling.
No, I gotta get out of you guys' hair.
Oh,
And now, some being.
we all have to go, have to go through?
No.
Oh, I like that. What they did? Are they copies? Wow.
No, this is one thing, I mean.
Well.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Terry, you wanna hit the R button on the, that's been recording, I can cut it, but
We got sneakers.
just so we can forget.
He was sneaking another cookie.